batching cocktails is one of the most important skills to learn as a bartender, especially as it pertains to speed, efficiency, and to be able to focus on what your actual job is, which is taking care of your guests. In this video, I'm going to talk to you all about what batching is, why it's important, how to do it effectively, and really go through why the best bars, the highest volume bars, are pretty much batching most of their cocktails, if not all of them. All right, let's get right into it. So what is batching or pre-batching cocktails? Why do bartenders do it, and how is it actually useful? First, let's start with what it is. Well, right here in front of me, I have a bottle that we ripped the label off and says The Dictator. The Dictator is not the name of a spirit, it is the name of a cocktail that we make in my bar. In this bottle is all of the ingredients of that cocktail. It is just not diluted yet. And so why would you do this? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. One is speed. When you have a busy bar and you're doing high volume, to build a cocktail with every single ingredient every single time, it can take a long time, and it takes away from your guest experience or with what you're doing with the guests, right? So for example, just to show you practically the difference in how quickly it would be to make this cocktail, I'm gonna do it both with the batch and also building it on its own, as in not batched, if that didn't make sense to you before.
Ganando con la diablona, bien alterados, collas el mano y bien cambiados, con los gustingos llegaban a traigo. La pagada nunca falla al peligro, en mi negocio generando y desde chico, con un porte bien tumbado, así es como la navego, ya se la saben todos quienes aquí el mero mero, al tiro y bien pendiente, ya se la saben qué pedo, mi cara no la muestro bajo perfil, me la llevo, me la llevo, me la llevo, me la llevo.
So obviously, one of these took a lot longer to make than the other, and also don't mind the difference in liquid height. This one, the ice cube was smaller, and I think I sipped more on this one. But obviously, I think that shows the speed at which you can make a cocktail when it is batched. A couple of the other benefits to batching, right? I mentioned speed. Consistency is another one, is that once things are batched, all of the cocktails coming from that batch are going to taste identical, right? For the most part. Obviously, there's still dilution that plays a role in that, but if you make the batch the correct way, it should have a good flavor consistently throughout every cocktail that you make. And, there are a couple of other benefits as well, cost-saving measures in terms of waste. Obviously, if you're a good bartender, you shouldn't be wasting a lot of stuff, but sometimes things happen, right? Like, you add one wrong ingredient and you have to throw the whole thing out because it's not the right flavor. So with a batch cocktail, the other benefit is, if you made it right once, it's right. Obviously, there's also the caveat where if you mess up the batch, you're throwing out the whole batch, which that's even more expensive. So it's a double-edged sword, if you will. Before we get into batching these, I'm gonna move these out of the way. We have this one where all of the ingredients were not juice, right? So and what I mean by that is it was all alcohol. So this will last almost indefinitely because it was a mixture of rum, some sherry, and bitters. Like, that's high in alcohol. It's not gonna go bad, but you can batch things with juice. It's just that they now have and it has an expiration date. And this right here is our batch caipirinha. So talking about batching with citrus, that can be a bit tough because citrus will degrade over time. Even though there is alcohol in here, which kind of helps slow it down, I wouldn't keep a batch citrus cocktail for longer than like a day, maybe 2 days. And so with the caipirinhas, we batch them pretty much every day, only because it's the cocktail that we sell the most of. It's the most classic Brazilian cocktail. And so by batching them every day, the reduction in steps saves us so much time. Because one of the things I like to say in bartending is that every second saved will actually help you down the line because things kind of add up over the course of an evening. So by batching our caipirinhas, it actually really helps us. But again, you don't want to keep it for too long. And one thing that I want to mention, especially if you think, oh, well, why do I care if I'm a home bartender? This is actually the hack for making cocktails at home at a party and not stressing yourself out. Like, I've been a bartender at home parties. It is a pain in the ass. Everyone's like, oh, dude, can you make me a cocktail? Make me a cocktail. And like, you're just stuck bartending all night. Typically, what I do is I make punch, which is a big batch cocktail, really. So batching a cocktail where you're like, cool, I still want to show off my skills, like you can stir up a bunch of these, and you're good to go. You know, like you're ready to go. They're ready made. Like I usually for parties, I will batch them. I was in Florida recently. I had some friends over and I had a fresh watermelon, and we made some like watermelon tequila bitter cocktails, and they were really tasty. But I batched them all ahead of time, crushed them, put them in a blender, and just served it to people. And it was you know, so much easier. And so that's just one thing to note, right? You don't want to necessarily batch citrus in a cocktail that you're planning on keeping for very long. Okay, cool, Louis. So how do you actually go about batching a cocktail? Well, it's pretty simple, and it's gonna sound kind of dumb, but let's go through it, right? I have my recipe for the Dictator, which I'll show you guys here. It's just right there at the bottom. It has all of our ingredients and how much of each. And then I actually just multiplied those out, usually starting off with one important ingredient. So usually the base spirit of a cocktail. This bottle of Santa Teresa is the rum that we use the most for the Dictator. It's a 750. And that was basically the basis for the batching. So basically what I did was, because I wanted to fit these into 750 milliliter bottles, I added up all of the components of my Dictator cocktail, which is 1.5 ounces of Santa Teresa rum, 0.25 ounces of an overproof rum, which we're using Worthy Park's overproof here, Jamaican rum. I want that funk to mesh well with the nice dry elements of the Santa Teresa. We also do a 1/2 ounce of Oloroso sherry, and then we do 2 dashes of Angostura bitters and 2 dashes of mole bitters. The one thing that we don't add to the batch is the sugar, because we don't want it to go bad. We want to just leave it as alcohol. All said, we're talking about 2.25 ounces of liquid in each Dictator. And then I took 750, which is 25 ounces, and divided 25 ounces by 2.25 ounces. That gives me 11.11 cocktails. We're gonna call it 11 cocktails. And then I went back and multiplied each ingredient by 11. 1.5 ounces of Santa Teresa, we multiply that by 11, which brings it to 16.5 ounces of Santa Teresa in our batch. We then did the same thing with the overproof rum, which brings us, you know, we had 0.25 times 11, that gives us 2.75 ounces of our overproof rum. And then same thing with the 0.5 ounces of the sherry. We did times 11, which gives us 5.5 ounces of Oloroso sherry and 22 dashes of Angostura and 22 dashes of mole bitters. We're gonna make that, and that'll fit into a bottle. So let's get to it. Hopefully that made sense. I think it did. I don't know. I have never filmed a video about batching. I don't know if this is fun or interesting, but I hope it is. So we're gonna do 16.5 ounces of Santa Teresa rum. I'm gonna use the rest of this one, and this is actually going to be the bottle that we're going to batch. 2 ounces, and try to keep track. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 and a half. Cool, so that one component down. 2 3/4 ounces of our overproof rum. So we'll do 2 ounces, 0.75 or 3/4 of an ounce. So 2.75 ounces of our overproof rum. We'll take our sherry and we'll do 5.5 ounces. We got 2, 4, 5.5. And now for the fun bit, counting 22 dashes of mole bitters. That's 22, and then Angostura. "22 dashes of Angostura." And now you just want to mix it up, and there's our batch Dictator. And in theory, if we did everything correctly, it should fill this 750 perfectly. Hopefully, we get this right. Oh, that is... I'm off by a little bit, but if you can't tell, literally it's at the very, very top. But yeah, so roughly about one, you know, I went a little over, but maybe me saying that the bitters were negligible is not true. Whatever. And there we have our batch Dictator. I'm going to pour some back out so I can actually put the lid on this, or else it's not going to close. Probably just... I just realized that that wasn't diluted at all. It was just straight up flavor in my mouth. Nice. So cool. There we have a batch of the Dictator. Yeah. And overall, I think that kind of explains it. That's kind of the benefit to batching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a fun one, a little bit different, talking about like techniques and more of the nitty gritty, like nerdy bartending stuff. And I really like doing these. I love educating, and I love talking about like why we batch versus like just making every cocktail, you know, to a la carte to order. bespoke. Bespoke, I think, is the word we're looking for. And yeah, cheers. I hope you guys enjoyed it.